So good morning, class. So last week, we discussed about the measurements, the basic quantities, and the derived quantities, as well as the introduction to vector quantity. So we define vector quantity, the definition of it, and then we started to discuss about the direction of the vectors, and we talk about the direction, how it's connected to mathematical values or concepts like your Cartesian plane, your quadrantal angles, and then we try to solve for case 1 and 2 for the vectors, which is addition and subtraction, as well as perpendicular lines that Pythagorean theorem is applicable to solve for the resultant vector. So we will review our lesson for today. I will just check whether you have absorbed what we have discussed last week. So same rule, just ready your calculator and your pencil and paper, okay? Which is not a derived quantity. Okay. There are 6 basic quantities, and luminous intensity is one of them. It's just easy to memorize that 6. Mass, length, time, temperature, luminous intensity, and electric current. So therefore, these 3 are all derived quantities because they are not in the list in the basic quantity. Just simple, ba? So why is it that there are 9 students who did not answer? Okay, let's have just to check. Okay, so this is now the prefix terra means. Okay, so 8, the correct answer. And there you are. Let's go to John average speed is 3 meters per second. He was walking downstream in a river with a current of 2 meters per second. What is the velocity of John? Okay, 9 got a correct answer. And we have this. And let's go to the 4th question. John average speed is 3 meters per second. He is walking crossing the river with a current of 4 meters per second. What is the velocity of John? Okay. And let's go to the last question. It's negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to blank degrees Celsius. Okay, 8 got a correct answer. The only temperature reading that the degrees Fahrenheit and the degrees Celsius are equal is negative 40 degrees. So at negative 40 degrees, it can be both read as Celsius or Fahrenheit scale. Okay, so let's have the podium. So 3rd is Zarain. Next, we have Laika. Next, we have Sophia and Romel and Ella. So congratulations to our top 5 finisher. And so let's now continue our lesson. So now let's now proceed with this next topic, which is called as the resolution of vectors. So once we talk about resolution, the root word is solution. So it means that we were going to resolve it again or to solve it again. Kay may prefix nga re. So then we will solve it again. If you remember, the resultant vector in our perpendicular lines, case number 2, nga gisabat natin last week, which is our answer is 5 meters, 53 degrees. This is west of south. If you remember our resultant vector. Now we add up, gin-add natin your x component, which is vector A. Vector A natin, gin-add up natin ra si vector A kag si vector B last week. So your vector A is 4 meters north, west, sorry. And then your vector B is 3 meters north. Then we have this resultant vector of 5 meters, 53 degrees west of south. So we will resolve this resultant vector again, and we will check whether your vector A is 4 meters west and your vector B is 3 meters north. As you can see, this one is west, so this is an X direction, and this one is Y direction, which is it is north. So i-check natin by getting the X and Y components of the vector. So first, we will going to draw. So you draw your vector, and this is west of south. So this is in this location. And this is your angle, 53 degrees. So let's have to draw a broken line. And this one is your Y, and this one is your X. So that will be your vector. So this is the drawing of your vector. So what are we going to do here is to resolve. Let's check whether your X is 4 and your Y is 3. Balikan natin, liwatan ta ang pag-process. So we will going to use to solve for your X component. So your X component here is here. This one is X, your vector X. So this one here is 5 meters. So that is 5 meters. Kung makita mo no, ang atin nga drawing, that's 5 meters. So therefore, if it is 5 meters, we will going to have your X. And your X here is facing the angle, which is 53 degrees. And the given is the hypotenuse. So my question is, what function are we going to use wherein the present sides are your opposite and hypotenuse? What function? Ano nga function ang gamitin ta? Anybody? Opposite and hypotenuse ang given. Because your X here is opposite to 53 and the given is 5, which is the hypotenuse. So what function are we going to use? Is it sine, is it cosine, or is it tangent?
Sine, sir.
Correct,
Sine,
Elita.
sir.
So you use sine. So therefore, sine 53 degrees is opposite, which is X, over the hypotenuse 5. Okay. Now, we will going to get the value of X. So we will going to transfer this 5 to the other side of the equation, wherein 5 divides your X. So therefore, if it is dividing your X, once it will cross the equal sign, it will become a multiplier. So therefore, this will be 5 times sine 53 equals X, or written as X, which is equal to 5 sine 53. And this will be equal to 4 meters or 3.99. Pero kung isulbon mo rata, kung i-round off ta, magiging 4 na lang tana. Alright. So let's now see whether your X is 4. And you will see the X is 4. So we return to the original given. And we resolve it again. Let's check for your Y. Your Y component. So in your Y component, you will see that your Y here is adjacent to your angle. Okay, because ingad na. Ingad ka 53 degrees. You will see here 53 degrees. Ingad ka 53 degrees ang imong Y. And the other given is the hypotenuse. So what function are you going to use once you are going to solve for the missing side, which is the adjacent, but you have the hypotenuse? Adjacent and hypotenuse. So what function?
Cosine.
Correct.
Cosine.
Correct. You're going to use cosine. So cosine 53 degrees will be equal to Y, which is the adjacent, divided by 5, which is the hypotenuse. So you can write your equation as 5 multiplied to cosine 53 times 5. So we have Y, therefore, this is equal to 3 meters. That's equal to 3.004. So, or round off to 3. So you will see that in the given, your vector B is 3 meters. That is north. So it is in the y-axis, and your y here appears to be 3. So we resolve the vectors. So this is what we call as the resolution of vectors. We are getting the x and y component of the vectors. So we just have to decide whether you're going to use the sine or the cosine, because the given side is the hypotenuse. So the two functions that deals with the hypotenuse is sine and cosine. But you have to decide whether the x component is opposite to the angle. So definitely you have to use the sine. That's why it is very important to know the direction. Kaya remember nyo, ang atin na quadrants, di ba la? This one is quadrant 1. And the quadrant 1 has the direction north of east. And we have east of north. Then we have quadrant 2. The direction is, this is west of north. And this one is north of west. And in quadrant 3, you have the direction south of west and west of south. Then we have in the quadrant 4, you have the direction east of south and south of east. So you have to memorize that, as well as memorizing by and by the quadrantal angles. Okay? So let's have some examples. So let's have some examples. So let's say, for example, here, we have a lawn mower. So I know you are particular with the lawn mower. Bali amuri ang panggagunting bara kang inyong ano ra? Hilamon sa inyong garden. Okay. And then my handle ay there, the handle is. Let's say, for example, there is a gardener. Okay, the gardener is actually pulling the lawnmower forward to this direction. Okay. And the hand of the gardener is parallel to the handle and producing a force of 40 Newton downward here, which is angled as 30 degrees. Okay, na-angle ka 30 degrees ang handle kang imo nga lawnmower. The question is, what is the force used to move the lawnmower forward? Okay, so amo lang pamangkot. Now, my question, anay, ako kaninyo. We are ignoring friction here. We are ignoring friction. Okay. If the lawnmower is moving forward and this gardener used a force of 40 Newton at an angle of 30 degrees, my question is all of the force that the gardener exerted was used to move the lawnmower forward? Again, the lawnmower, or the gardener, I mean, is pushing the lawnmower forward at a force of 40 Newton parallel to the handle. And the handle is 30 degrees. My question is all of the force that was exerted by the lawnmower was used to move the lawnmower forward? Yes or no?
Yes,
Cheryl
sir.
Rose. Cheryl? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. Sino pa may sabat siya kaina? Okay. Rachel?
Yes, sir.
Yes man. Okay. How about Micaela.
Yes, sir.
Yes, man. Okay. So we will going to find out whether your answer is correct or not. Okay. Now, the force that is actually applied by the gardener is angled at 30 degrees. So this one is the elevation, and of course the depression is right over here, which is also 30 degrees. So we will going to have the vector. So it is moving forward, and then this is the vector forward, and we have downward, and this is your force, which is 40 Newton. And this is 30 degrees. 30 degrees, okay? This is the force in the x component, and this is the force in the y component. Okay, tirakan natin. There are two components of the force, as you can see, because the force that the gardener applied on the lawn mower is angled at 30 degrees. So definitely, there will be two components of the force. We have the force in the x and the force in the y-axis. Tama, no? Kaya ang atin, di inaw ang padto ang imo nga lawn mower. Diya ay ang direksyon. Amo diya ang direksyon ka lawn mower ta. Padto ridto. Diin ang x natin, padto man diya. Okay? Ang y tanan natin diin, panaog padalom. Na. So kung tirakan ta pa lang sa drawing, wala ta na tilabot si y. Wala tilabot si y kang pagpahulag kang imo nga lawn mower. Ignore ta lang friction na, gina-ignore tang friction. So wala tilabot si y sa pagpaulag kang imo nga lawn mower. Kundi si x lang gid ang may labot kay tungod nga always the motion of the object is parallel to the force applied. Tandaan nyo ra, that's the second law of Newton. Pero i-discuss nyo ra pag grade 8 ta. Pero na-discuss na kang grade 6, grade 5 nyo. Okay. Now, kung diin paadto ang puwersa mo, ridto man paadto ang hulag kang sa kabagay. So kung tirakan mo ridya, kay ridto paadto si lawn mower, ang responsible lang kana is ang imo nga x. The x-axis only of the force is responsible for it. Shudon, hindi tanan nga 14 Newton gingamit mo para magpahulag ka lawn mower. Not all of the force, which is 40 Newton, was used to move the lawn mower. It's only part of it because some of it is moving downward, which is in the y-axis. Kaya iba naka-react, nagapanaog padalong. So the question is, what is the force used to move the lawn mower forward? So we are going to get the x component because the x component of the force is parallel to the motion of the lawn mower. So definitely that x component is only responsible for the movement of the lawn mower to move forward. So we will going to get it. So cosine 30. Why I decided cosine? Because as you can see, your x is adjacent to 30 degrees. So therefore, you use cosine. Adjacent fx divided by the hypotenuse of 40. And your fx, therefore, is 40 multiplied to cosine 30 degrees. And your fx will be equal to, so we will solve, that is 30 cosine times 40, and your answer is 34.6. So therefore, only 34.6 Newton was used to move the lawn mower. Tiko may friction ra, malain pagidra, pero hindi lang anay ang aton friction masulod lang mag-grade 8. Okay? Kadya nga grade 7, gina-picture out natin nga wara ti friction. Frictionless ta na. Okay. So how about the force that is moving downward? Ti pirabe ta na ang force moving downward, and that is your y. Kay tulukan mo sa ating drawing, sa drawing ta, si y panaog padalom. Okay? So therefore, that will be sine 30 degrees Fy all over 40. So Fy will be 40 sine 30 degrees. And your Fy will be 20 Newton. Because sine 30 is 0.5. So therefore, 20 Newton. So 20 Newtons of the force is moving downward, while 34.6 Newtons of the force out of 40 was used to move it forward. So no is the answer. Okay? Not all of the 40 Newton was used for the this lawnmower to move it forward if friction is ignored. So component vector is very important part of vector quantity lesson because this will be the basic foundation of physics as we are going to solve problems in physics. So in parallel vectors, no, and in perpendicular vectors, we're only dealing with two vectors. But here, we can solve vectors by using this type of method once we are be dealing with three or more vectors that not exactly located in the x or y axis, but they are angled in between the two or in between or between the quadrants of the Cartesian plane. So this could help you to solve for vectors which is complicated and which are already more than three or more than two, vectors. So we have component vectors. So this is now all of the lessons in the vector quantity natin, pati last week, i-apply natin rin sa component method. Tanan na i-apply natin. Okay? So component method of solving vector is a method to solve for three or more vectors. So let's say, for example, we have vector A, vector B, and vector C. So you have here three vectors given. So the first vector is 10 Newton south. The second vector is 20 Newton northeast. And the third vector is 40 Newton 30 degrees south or west of south. Okay, 40 Newton, 30 degrees west of south. So we will going to add all of these three vectors. I-add natin ra. So what will be the resultant vector in adding the three vectors? So tirakan natin, do medyo complicated, kay ay kung tirakan ta, ang ananga pag plastar, no, hindi ta na pasato kay na nga parallel o kon perpendicular. Okay? Diyata na, sari-sari rin and angled ang iba. So we will going to solve the resultant vector. Okay? Wait lang ha. All right. So let's have to do it step by step. Let's have the first step. Okay, my first step ako. So again, 10 Newton south, 20 Newtons northeast, and 40 Newtons 30 degrees west of south. So the first step is number 1, draw the vector. Okay, i-draw natin ang vector. Let's have vector A. Vector A is 10 Newton south. So we have the Cartesian plane here, and it is right over here, south. Okay, so this is 10 Newton. Pato sa south. Let's go to B. B is 20 Newton northeast. So let's locate northeast, and definitely it is found in the first quadrant. So kung mahaba ko nga northeast, shouldn't exactly 45 in the middle of the two X and Y axis. So it's here, no? 45 degrees ra. So this is 20 Newton. Okay. Then let's go to C. Your vector C is 40 newtons, 30 degrees west of south. I hope I am correct. West of south. Let's check. Correct. West of south. So we were going to draw it in the Cartesian plane. Now, west of south is in the third quadrant. And it's right over here. That's why it's very important to memorize the direction. Kaya kung di mo ma-memorize ang direction, mayawan, tawagid. So this is 30 degrees and this is 40 Newton. All right. So we already identified. Na-identify na rin ang atin nga or na-draw na rin ang atin nga vectors. Next step natin is identify or determine, not identify. Determine the quadrantal angle. Okay, vector A is south. The quadrantal angle is the angle from the origin 0 degree. Let's move it up to the vector right over here. And you know that this is 270 degrees. Intao ko dyan kaninyo, this is 270 degrees. So vector A is 270 degrees from the origin. Okay, diyan amura mag-locate. Locate it from the origin. The second vector is very easy. It's here, and you know it's only 45 degrees from the origin 0 degree. So this one is 270 degrees. This one is 45 degrees. And let's go to C. Your C is located here. And this one is 30 degrees. So definitely, what will be your quadrantal angle from 0 degree? Who can give me the answer? This one is 90. This is 180. This is 270. And complete rotation is 360 degrees. So Piradja, halin dyan sa 0, paadtulig dyan sa quadrant, sa atin vector C. Who can give me the answer? Anybody? Anybody who can give me the answer? Ay, wala agad. Sino makatuguro ka sa bat? Pira. So kulon mo rin dyan ay, halin ko dyan sa 0, padturid dyan. 180 dyan ay 270 dyan. Ito pira-pira paling dyan padto dyan. Gamiti ka math. Okay, Jasmine. Pirang sabat?
225, sir.
225.
25.
So this is 30 and this is 60. Tama? Correct, no? Kung mag-30 dya ay, 270 dya ay, so sudo, dya ka lang halin, 270, minusan mo ka 30, pirari adya sa min. 270 minusan mo ka 30.
240, sir.
Correct. So 240 yata na. 240 degrees. So dapat mamanaan mo kung paano magbuo ka quadrantal angle. So manaan mo rin yan, this one is 90 degrees dya, 180 dya, 270 dya, 360 degrees dya ay. So kung dya ay 30 degrees, kung maglibot ka hastari dya ay 270. Galing dya lang ta natutod. So minusan mo ka 30 ang 270. Kundi nga 240 riya. So your quadrant C, your vector C is 240 degrees. Tama? So let's now go to our third step. Our third step will be solve for the X and Y components of the vectors. So let's solve for the X and Y components of the vectors. Balaan natin. So vector A, using this formula, for X component, you will use cosine theta. Well, for Y component, you will use sine theta. So amo itong ipabuo kong quadrantal angle para di ta rin mag-decide pa whether sine or cosine ang gamitin ta sa X o sa Y. Ginbuot ang quadrantal angle para nga ang aton nga desisyon dayon kung X gani ira cosine gamitin ta, ang Y sine lang gamitin ta. So ang X mo will be equal to the given vector. Okay, this is the vector, given vector, multiplied to cosine theta. Okay, for Y will be the given vector multiplied to sine theta. So let's solve for A. Bala natin si A. So si A natin is 10 Newton, 270 degrees. So therefore, gamitan ta si X is 10 Newton multiplied to cosine 270. And cosine 270 class is 0. So X is 0. Okay? For Y, we will use 10 times cosine or sine, 270. And sine 270 is negative 1. Okay? So sine 270 is negative 1. So definitely your Y is negative 10 newtons. Tama ra. Kay kung tinukan natin ang drawing, wala kita ti nagapadto sa X, tanan nagapadto sa Y. Okay? Tanan-tana sa Y gapadto. So 0 gid man ang imo nga X, si Y mo lang may value nga 10. Nag-negative kay nagapa-south si Y. Okay? Nagapa-south. South is a negative direction. Let's go to B. Your B is 20 Newton, 45 degrees. This is our B. So X natin will be 20 multiplied to cosine 45 and X will be equal to, isolve natin ra. And that will be 45 cosine times 20 and your answer is 14.14. So this is 14.14 Newton. And it is positive. It is positive because the direction is northeast. East is the X, which is positive direction. Okay? So NY will be equal to 20 sine 45 degrees. And Y is also equal to 14.14 Newton. It will be just equal because it is 45 degrees. So if it is 45 degrees, both X and Y will be equal. This is an isosceles right triangle. Tama? Two sides are equal. Okay? So, positive man. Kaya ang aton ba nga direction is northeast. Dito na is south. So, north is positive, east is positive. North for your Y, east for your X. Okay. Let's go for C. So, sa C kita rin. C natin kaina, that will be 40 Newton and that is 240 degrees. This is west and south. So therefore, third quadrant jatana, mapuro dya ka negative. Kay si west natin is negative x, si south natin is negative y. So mapuro ra negative. So check natin na x will be equal to 40 cosine 240 and x will be equal to. So that will be 240 cosine times 40 and the answer is negative 20. Negative 20. Sakto ang sabat ta kay west ang direction. Kung bakit ra negative ang sabat mo, masala gid ang imo nga sabat. Diyan mo na ma-base. And 40 multiplied to sine 240 and your y will be equal to. So let's solve. So 240 sine times 40 and your answer is negative 34.64. Negative 34.64. So that will be your answer, negative 34.64. And your y is negative because south is the direction. So you have a correct sign. So you have a correct answer. So that will be procedure or method number 3. We took the x and y components of the vectors using the formula x is equal to the resultant vector times cosine theta, and your y is the resultant vector times sine theta. And you come up with this. The negative signs and positive signs are very, very important. Let's go to the fourth method. Sum up all the x components and all the y components. So, doon, i-add tatanan niya x, i-add tatanan niya y. So, vector A, vector B, vector C, summation of x, summation of y. Si x natin kay na 0. Sa A, negative 10 ay Newton. Sa B natin, balikan ta, hindi ko ma-memorize, na 14.14 tag 14.14. So we have 14.14 newtons, 14.14 newtons. And our third is negative 20 and negative 34.64. Negative 20 and negative 34.64. So that will be your x and y. So, ano obrahan natin? Iwanan natin. Isolbon natin rin ang atin nga 14.14 okay, plus negative 20 and your answer is negative 5.86. Negative 5.86. And then your y, negative 10 plus 14.14. Okay. Okay, plus 34.64. And your answer is negative 30.5. Negative 30.5 newtons. So amo rin dya ang atin nga summation kag atin nga x kag y. Okay? Maadto kita rin sa fifth natin din nga method. Ginbuo ta rin si x kag y, no? Ibalon ta rin si resultant vector ang magnitude na. Solve the magnitude of the resultant vector using the Pythagorean theorem. So the magnitude of the resultant vector will be equal to the square root of summation of x squared plus summation of y squared. And this is actually the absolute value. Kung absolute value, we will going to ignore the negative sign. So the resultant vector will be equal to, ignore ta lamang ang negative sign, 5.86 squared plus 30.5 squared. So the resultant vector will be equal to, solve natin, 5.86, the squared of it, plus 30.5, the squared of it. And the answer is square root mo, and it's 31.05, or just simply 31 Newton. That's only the magnitude because we're dealing with vectors, so we need to solve for the direction. So the resultant is 31 Newton. Let's proceed to the direction. So what will be the direction? So the direction will be solve. This will be your sixth. Solve for the angle of the direction using the formula tangent theta summation of y over summation of x. Mura ha? Tangent theta is equal to summation of y divided by the summation of x. So amura ang aton nga formula nga gamitin. So therefore, tangent theta is summation of x natin is y gani is negative 30.5. Negative 30.5 all over your x, which is negative 5.86. Negative 5.86. All right. So theta, therefore, is the quantity, no? Balaan ta rin ang negative natin kay ano ta na kare absolute value lang ang balaan ta. Tangent negative 1. Okay? And your answer will be, equal to 30.5 divided by 5.86 second function tangent, and that is 79 degrees. So this is 79 degrees. So that will be your angle theta. But then we have to be more specific. We have to find the specific direction. So the last part will be find, or not find, locate. Locate the specific direction. And how can we locate it? No? By identify the signs of x, summation of x, and summation of y. So kung tarukan natin, si x natin is negative, si y natin is negative. Okay. And locate in what quadrant it will fall. So, ano nga quadrant nga si x negative kag si y negative? Ano gani nga quadrant? Ano nga quadrant si x negative kag si y negative? Romel John. Sa di nga quadrant pakita si x negative kag si y negative. Wa kamo katuon kang inyo nga notes. Or wa nyo ginaterek ang akin YouTube nga gin-download, gin-upload. Di ba lang quadrant 1 natin? This one is quadrant 1. Si x is positive, si y is positive. Quadrant 2 natin is si x is negative and si y natin is also is positive. Okay, this one is positive x. This is negative y. Positive y, I mean. This is negative x. And this is negative y. Sa third quadrant natin, si x is negative, si y is negative. And the fourth quadrant natin is si x is positive and si y is negative. Tikabla, this is negative, negative. So sa third quadrant na nag-fall. So therefore, the vector is falls at the third quadrant. So, jata na sa third quadrant. Jay. Na. And darwa ka direction sa third quadrant. That is west of south, right over here. And we have south of west. Okay. So, paano mag-decide? Tandaan mo lang, kung sa quadrant 1 gani matupa, north of east ratana. Kung sa quadrant 2 gani matupa, that is north of west ratana. Kung quadrant 3 gani matupa tana, south of west. Kung quadrant 4, that will be south of east. Okay? Amurin ra. So shudon quadrant 3 jatana, so this is south of west. So the resultant vector natin, quadrant 3 jaya, so in south of east, south of west natin. So the resultant vector, therefore is equal to 31 Newton. 31 Newton, and that is 79 degrees south of west. So this is now your resultant vector. All right, so 7 got a correct answer. Ay naanutan na ang 12 man. South, north. So the north, 0, si mo x. Si north mo is positive y, kundi positive 10. Diba? Okay. So let's go to the answer. Okay, so these are the 5. And let's go to, from city A, car will travel 10 kilometers north, 30 kilometers southeast, and 30 kilometers 30 degrees west of south to reach B. What is the x and y components of the second vector? Okay, 9 got correct answer. All right, so these are our leaderboard. So let's go to the third question. So we are now in the third vector. Okay, only 5 got a correct answer. All right, so let's now proceed to the fourth question. Okay, the 6 only got a correct answer. So this is now our top 5. We have second to the last. We are now solving the angle of the vector. Okay, angle of the vector. Tangent theta is equal to summation of y over summation of x. So you have 2 minutes to solve. Okay, only 3 got a correct answer. Romel. And let's have the last. Dapat kinasulat nyo ang sabat kay na para nga malagas nyo pa-solve. You have only 1 minute to answer. Because you need to locate that in the x and y Cartesian plane. So our podium. Okay, Felicity. Then Romel. Then Michaela.